This is a public service announcement. Your child does not legally have to go to school if you live in the UK. So it's January 2025 and I have a 4-year-old who would be due to start school this September 2025. The school application deadline has now passed. I think it was the 15th of January. And I didn't apply for a school place for him because he won't be going to school this September. I won't be sending him to school the following January when he reaches compulsory school age. And I'm not going to be delaying him because he's a summer-born baby and starting the following year. He's just not going to go to school like his brother and sister, who are now 7 and have been home educated for the last 2 years. And I will get into the reasons why he won't be going to school and what we've learned over the last 2 and a bit years of home educating. But first, I just wanted to go back to this public service announcement about not legally having to send your kids to school in the UK. Because I didn't even know that was legally a thing until my twins, who are now 7, were 3.5 years old, and it can come as a shock to a lot of people. So legally in the UK, once your child reaches compulsory school age, which is the term after their 5th birthday, they have to be in receipt of a full-time education suitable to their age and aptitude. But that does not have to be at school from 9 till 3:30 every day, Monday to Friday. If you have a child already in school, they do not have to be there. You can just deregister them. If you have a 4-year-old like I do, you just don't apply for a school place. My local authority sent me a letter telling me it was time to apply for my child's school place. I think the deadline, like I said, was 15th of January. That deadline has now passed. I've lost the letter. I have not applied for a school place and I won't be going to. Oh, it's muddy out here. If you want to know the reasons why I didn't send my eldest to, you can watch this video. I'll link it up in the description. So my reasons for not sending my kids to school is what you would probably call philosophical, in that it was our first choice. It's not that we sent the kids to school for a bit and then it didn't work out for whatever reason. They never went. It was our first choice to home educate. That was my reason for not sending my eldest twins, my only twins, my eldest kids to school. And the reason that I'm not sending my youngest is based now on 2, probably 3 years of home education, because we actually started, in my mind, home educating before they reached compulsory school age. We were already going along to home ed meets and workshops, and yeah, taking that life approach, I suppose, in a unschooling way. And my youngest has been in that environment, the home ed world, since he was, 2 or under even. That's kind of all he's known. He's never been to preschool as yet. He's always just been out and about with us, living life, going to home ed things. And I really believe it's had like a positive impact on him. And that's the basis for why I'm going to continue to home educate him once he reaches school age. So firstly, everyone is always commenting on how advanced he is, both verbally and physically for his age. I mean, he's pretty big for his age, which probably goes some way to explaining that. And I notice it too, but my twins were premature, so obviously they've always been slightly I don't want to say behind, but they maybe took a bit longer to catch up to speed. But it's not just me noticing it, it's lots of other people always comment on how you can just hold a conversation with him and how he always keeps up with the older kids. And I know there's always differences in individual kids, but I honestly believe that a large part of that is due to the fact that he's been in this home ed life from so young, and he's always chatted along with adults as though they were peers, and he's always been in mixed age groups. He's quite often the youngest one there, hanging out with like the older kids and having conversations with them, keeping up with them. Some of the people he likes the most at some of our home ed meets are kids older than him. And you know, I'm sure it could be explained by other factors as well, but I really think that being in those home ed circles around such a mix of people has really made his development come on leaps and bounds, to be honest. Okay, so my second reason why I won't be sending my youngest to school in September is that he's made some really good friends now in the whole home ed world. And I think I included this as one of my reasons why I wouldn't be sending my twins to school after a year of home ed. And obviously now, like 2 and a bit years in, some of those friendship bonds are really strong. And this goes back to the misconception that home ed kids don't socialize. Like, he's seen the same group of kids several times a week, at least 2 or 3 times a week for years now. And if he went off to school in September, that would dramatically decrease the amount of time he'd be able to see them and spend with them. And he'd be leaving, you know, if all those kids stayed home ed, he'd be leaving a whole group of friends behind, and friends of different ages. Even if those kids did go to school and the same school as him, they wouldn't be in the same year as him. I think there's one girl we know who would be due to start school this September as well. Other than that, most of his friends are older than him and would be in different years, even if they went to the same school. And I think that's just highlighted for me as well. You know, if he went into school and was in age separated classes, whatever you call it, there's so many people that he would never have the chance to make friendships with that he has now. And for me, that's been one of the biggest bonuses of home ed, is being able to mix with different age groups, which I think is like so abnormal when you look at it. One of those things that you can't unsee once you see is how abnormal it is that kids in school are put into age segregated classes. And I guess I understand why they do it to some degree, because of having to follow the curriculum and having to have everyone at the same stage. But as home educators, we don't have to do that. We don't have to use a curriculum, certainly not the national curriculum. We don't have to have our kids at a certain level. They have to be at the level that's appropriate for them and be making progressions. And so yeah, that's the second reason why I won't be sending my son to school, is that he's going to have to leave behind a lot of friends if he does. Okay, let's get out of this creepy woods and get home, have a cup of tea. And while we're walking the short walk back, I will tell you what are we on, third reason why I'm not going to be sending my son to school in September. First, let me just lock up here. Okay, so the third reason I won't be sending my son to school in September is, this might sound like a strange one, he's very comfortable around adults in a good way. And I think that comes in a part from having spent so much time around adults that aren't in a position of authority to him. Let me explain that one. So obviously when you're in school and have teachers who are lovely, you know, I always have to caveat on this channel, make sure I don't get one over, that we love teachers. I think they do an amazing job, and they're stuck in a system that isn't fit for purpose. But they are all still in a position of authority over the children, to the extent that they have to you know, ask an adult when they want to go to the toilet. They have to ask an adult if they want to take their coats or jumpers off. That was definitely a thing in my school. They have to ask an adult's permission for pretty much anything, including bodily functions. And I really think that sets a different kind of relationship between adults and children than it does in a home ed world, where they're just chatting to adults, you know, almost as though they were peers. And it really creates some laughs amongst some of my friends, some of my home ed mum friends, how my son is, like how it's like having conversation with another little mini adult sometimes with my son. Come on, here it comes. And yeah, so that's another reason that I wouldn't want to send my son to school, is because I think he's developed a really healthy relationship with adults. And people's opinions are going to vary on that. Some people probably think he shouldn't have such a almost peer relationship with adults. And obviously he does understand that if an adult tells you something for like a safety reason, then you need to do that. But personally, for me, I think it's going to serve him well growing up, not having that authoritarian view or fear of people who are older than him. Okay, my fourth reason I think we're on, and I'm actually still undecided if this really is a good thing or not, so leave me a comment if you have any thoughts, but it is my fourth reason, and that is, well, hang on, let me just explain why I'm having a glass of wine and not a cup of tea. My microphone died when I was recording earlier and having a cup of tea, and it didn't record any sound, so I'm actually having to record this much later. And I was really frustrated that the sound hadn't come out, and I was thinking, oh, I'm going to have to record it all again. Let's check we are recording. Here we are. And it felt like a real drag to have to do it again. And I thought of Ali Abdaal's words that I think can serve us in a lot of areas of life. What would this look like if it was fun or enjoyable? I can't remember what one he said. And I thought, do you know what? Having to re-record the last few minutes of my video would look more fun if I had a glass of wine in hand. So that is what I'm doing. So yeah, the fourth reason why I'm not sending my son to school is that he gets to spend a lot of time around his siblings. He's got older brother and sister, 3 years older almost, who are twins. And the reason I say I'm not sure if this is good or bad is because they obviously bicker and argue a lot. But as I understand it from speaking to even parents with children in school, this is quite a common thing. I actually grew up an only child, so I'm kind of learning the sibling dynamic as I go along. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand that it's quite normal for brothers and sisters to be full on fighting 1 minute and then besties the next, and to kind of argue not a lot, but still generally love each other. So we're going with that. And I figure, you know, we spend a lot of our time with people we're not related to. You know, if we work in offices, we spend a lot of time with other people. And don't get me wrong, I've made some amazing friends that way. And maybe I wouldn't like to spend that much time with my family. But I figure if we're going to spend time with anyone for that long, shouldn't it be with the people we're closest to? And I'm not going to be able to really say if this was a good thing or not until like 20 years time maybe, but I'm hoping that the fact that they have spent that much time together, had so many experiences together, in the long run is going to mean that they have a really close relationship. And if you are way more into this home ed game than I am, and you have children who have gone through home ed together and are much older, let me know what their relationship is like, because I would be really interested to hear. So we are back in my usual setup. I'm about to get on to my last reason why I'm not sending my youngest to school, and I will go over that in a second. But obviously this has been a bit of a different kind of video to my usual one, experimenting with a bit of the walking around style of video. Let me know what you think, whether it was good, whether I was just breathing into my microphone like a weirdo the whole time. I think I need to be a bit fitter to be able to walk and talk. But if you've been enjoying this video, please consider subscribing. And the last reason why I'm not going to be sending my 4-year-old to school in September, actually he'll almost be 5 because he's a September baby, so he would be one of the oldest in the class. I still think he's too young to start school. I think 4 and 5 is too young to be in full-time school Monday to Friday, away from their parents or carers for that long. Obviously, we are in the UK, start our children in full-time education later than a lot of other countries, and I do think it's too early personally. You know, if he comes to me later and says he wants to try school, then we'll talk about it. But I think, you know, 4, 5, even 6, it's going to have to be a no from me. I think he can still benefit a lot more from having more time out of the school system. You know, obviously I think still my 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13-year-olds are going to benefit from being out of the school system. But I think especially at that age, it's just, in my personal opinion, not is what's going to be most beneficial to him right now. So yeah, those are the sort of main 5 reasons, I suppose, why my youngest isn't going to be starting school in September, based on my experience now of 2 or 3 years of home ed. I've got loads of other videos on this channel giving my sort of more philosophical reasons, the initial reasons why I chose to home ed my oldest. And I really just hope this sort of serves as like the public service announcement that I said at the beginning. If you didn't even realise it was legal to home educate in the UK, if you don't even know home education or homeschooling, as you might have heard, it was a thing, your child does not legally have to go to school if they don't want to, if you don't want them to, if your circumstances allow that. And yeah, dive into some other videos on my channel. It might bring up loads of questions. Please feel free to ask in the comments or email me. I really try and get back to everyone. And if you didn't know, now you know. I will see you on the next video.